When most Texans fans talk about the Texans' biggest needs, they talk about corner and offensive tackle, and that's pretty much it. But there's a third need, and it's a pretty big need that Texans fans don't really talk about, and that's a pass rushing interior defensive lineman. And the reason I'm saying this is because on Twitter lately, I've kind of been throwing out the idea that the Texans could pick an interior defensive lineman in the first round. And a lot of people freak out. They're like, no, why in the world would we pick an interior defensive lineman in the first round? We're picking offensive tackle or corner. Now, yes, it makes sense picking offensive tackle and corner. I have no issue with that. But it also makes sense picking an interior defensive lineman. Now, let me tell you why. If you go back to last season, the Texans' defensive line consisted of Jadeveon Clowney as one of the edge rushers, Angelo Blackson and Brandon Dunn rotating as one of the D tackles, DJ Reader being the other D tackle, and J.J. Watt, the other edge rusher. Now, what's the problem on that D-line? Well, on the interior, you got DJ Reader and Brandon Dunn, or DJ Reader and Angelo Blackson, or DJ Reader and Christian Covington, or you had, a combination of those four players pretty much on the interior. What's the issue with that? Well, all those guys are primary run stoppers. Their job is to stop the run. They're built to stop the run. They're not really built to pass rush, to push the pocket and pressure the quarterback. Now that creates an issue. What that issue is, on passing situations, J.J. Watt and Clowney would come from the edge, and since there's no pressure up front, the inside of the O-line, the middle of the pocket, whatever you want to call it, since there's no pressure coming from there, quarterbacks would easily just step up into the pocket and throw the football. I mean, how many times did opposing teams convert third and long situations on us? It felt like every single week there was like a bunch of situations like that. Last season, it felt like, especially late into the season, it felt like the Texans just could not get off the field on third down. And it was because of that reason. Not that reason alone. Of course, you have bad corners out there, but, like, your best players on defense are your edge rushers, J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney. How would quarterbacks, counter that? Simple. Stepping up into the pocket because there was no pressure down the middle. So, the job of a pass rushing interior defensive lineman is straight up either beat his blocker up front and go get the sack, or collapse the pocket down the middle. Push the pocket back into the quarterback. So, if he does that, what happens? The quarterback, starts backing up, and then here comes J.J. Watt or Jadeveon Clowney to clean that up. Or you have J.J. and Clowney coming from the edges, and the quarterback tries to step up into the pocket, and there's nowhere to go because your pass rushing interior defensive lineman is so disruptive that he disrupted the interior of the O-line, so the pocket is just collapsed, and it results in a sack. So that's pretty much the job of an interior defensive lineman. That is the impact of a good interior pass rushing defensive lineman. He collapses the pocket, makes it way easier on your edge rushers, on your DBs, and you could get off the field on third downs. And that's something the Texans couldn't do last year. And if you really start to think about it, you'll know what I'm saying. How many situations in that Colts game was it not like 3rd and 7, first down? It was so common last season. And this is part of the reason why. clean pocket, quarterback steps up, easy first down. Now, I know what you guys are going to say. That sounds a lot like J.J. Watt from 2011 to 2014. And yes, it is J.J. Watt from 2011 to 2014. So now the question is, why don't the Texans use J.J. Watt as that interior pressure guy? Well, the only answer I can come up with is because the Texans are scared to injure J.J. Watt long term again. Because as an interior defensive lineman, you take on double teams constantly. You're constantly getting beat up. So I'm pretty sure the Texans believe that, J.J. Watt can't take that beating anymore due to his back surgeries and probably the knee surgery too, but that's probably a stretch. But it's mostly due to the back surgeries. J.J. probably can't take the constant beating from, the interior of the O-line each and every game, each and every down. So that's probably the reason behind it. I honestly don't have another reason why they wouldn't do it. That's the only one that actually makes sense. Now, the next question that's probably going to be brought up is, what about DJ Reader? See, DJ Reader is a nose tackle. They do different things. They have different jobs. A nose tackle's job is to eat up blocks and stop the run. That's it. DJ Reader is a dominant nose tackle, but that's all DJ Reader does. All he does is stop the run, eat up blocks. He is not a guy that can push the pocket, collapse the pocket. That's not one of his skill sets. He's still a dominant nose tackle. He's still someone I want on the Texans long term, but he's not someone that can do what we need. Now, if you want some examples of dominant interior pass rushing defensive linemen in the NFL, well, here's some. You got Aaron Donald. You guys know Aaron Donald, defensive player of the year last year. The guy is just dominant. What Aaron Donald is doing over there in LA right now is the same thing J.J. Watt was doing here in Houston, from 2011 to 2014. Same thing, pretty much. Interior pass rush guy, just dominates through the middle, unstoppable. Another example is Chris Jones from Kansas City. And I think this one's huge because if you look last year, the Chiefs' defense was one of the worst. What carried them last season? Well, obviously Patrick Mahomes, but defensively, what carried them? It was Chris Jones. Chris Jones and Dee Ford and Justin Houston to some extent, they pretty much carried that defense. They got the stops when they needed them because of Chris Jones. He was just so dominant up front. He would constantly collapse the pocket and make life difficult on quarterbacks. And that's the type of impact interior defensive linemen can have in the game. You also got Ndamukong Suh, Fletcher Cox from Philadelphia. Like I said earlier, 2011 to 2015 J.J. Watt. You have Grady Jarrett from the Falcons. Malik Jackson when he was in Denver, when he was in Jacksonville. Geno Atkins from the Bengals. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he was a really dominant interior pass rushing defensive lineman, earlier in his career. Right now he's kind of slowed down, but for the most part the guy is still dominant. Now, if you're talking about pass rushing interior defensive linemen available this season, well, you're in luck because there is quite a few of them available. Obviously, you got Ndamukong Suh, who is a free agent right now. The problem with Suh is he is a little bit older, so you're not really going to get that much of a production from him. You got to, use him as a stopgap kind of option. And then in the draft, I see 4 day one starting guys that can straight up come in here and be dominant from the get-go as an interior pass rushing defensive lineman. Number 1 is Quinnen Williams. This guy's going to go top 5. The guy is just going to be dominant. There's no way the Texans can get this guy. Number 2, Ed Oliver. Pretty sure you guys know Ed Oliver. He's from U of H. Everybody wanted him. Everybody from Houston wants him. There's a small chance he's there for us, but I wouldn't bet on it, because the latest I've seen him go on mock draft is like 14 to Atlanta. That's 9 spots ahead of us. So I mean, if he goes out there and does something dumb, then he could fall to us, but I wouldn't bet on it. Now the next guy is Christian Wilkins from Clemson. Now there's a small chance he can fall to us, but I also don't see it. Now, a guy who I do think will be there for us to possibly take is Jerry Tillery from Notre Dame. There's a very good chance he's there. I highly doubt he goes before us. And if he's there, don't be surprised if we take him. Like, for example, if there's no offensive tackles there that are worth a first-round pick, don't be surprised if we take Jerry Tillery. And the reason why I only said offensive tackle is because I think there is no way Greedy Williams, DeAndre Baker, or Byron Murphy make it to the Texans at 23. So you gotta have a plan. So the purpose of this video is to pretty much make you guys understand that defensive lineman is a possibility in the first round. Don't freak out if the Texans do end up picking an interior defensive pass rusher in the first round, because it is a need. It's a big need. And how can that help us? Well, if you have a guy collapsing the pocket from the inside and you have JJ and Clowney coming from the outside, then it makes life easier on your DBs because they don't have to cover as long. Just imagine a Texans D-line that consists of Jadeveon Clowney, the pass rushing interior defensive lineman, let's say it's Jerry Tillery, and DJ Reader, and JJ Watt. And if you really want to get deadly, in certain situations you could sub out DJ Reader, throw JJ Watt on the inside, and bring Whitney Merciless down as the edge rusher. Then you have Clowney and Merciless as the edge rushers, and Jerry Tillery and JJ Watt as the interior pass rushing defensive lineman. Nobody's going to be able to stop that. You know, I'm just saying, don't be surprised if the Texans pick an interior defensive lineman in the first round. Don't freak out, because it is a pretty big need. It's something the Texans need to address. And honestly, if I were the Texans, I'd go sign Sue. So, you know, we already addressed that need. So we go into the draft having some room to make other moves. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.